But without further ado, Brad Nortman has power ranked the Green Bay Packers all-time rivalries.
That's right, guys. It's like an early here, Brad out, but the football music in the background makes me feel like I'm a real football player right now, not
You
just
used
a punter.
to be.
Yeah, I used to be. Back in my day. But that's right, guys. Thinking about the Packers.
That's right, guys.
And who they are. It might surprise you. I'm going to give you 5 of the Packers' top rivalries, power ranking style.
Number 5.
Here's what I thought of. It just in general, as you like make your own list. General distaste and hate for the opponent. Impact of like the series, right? When you think about marquee games, important games, iconic moments, and then just honestly, when you watch it, are like emotions elicited? Do you view it as a rivalry? So here we go. Number 5. This might shock everybody. The Detroit Lions. That's right. The Lions. They're not even in the top 4 of the Packers rivalry. They're number 5. This rivalry has been characterized by dominance for as long as I can remember. I mean, what was it? It was like 20-some straight games that the Packers beat the Lions at Lambeau Field. It's only a couple of years in the mid-90s when Barry Sanders was there that it was even competitive until now. That only means that it's the 5th rivalry for the Green Bay Packers is the Detroit Lions. Number 4. San Francisco 49ers. Now, this one has especially recently been spicy with the Packers on the losing side of marquee postseason meaningful games. But it wasn't just now. It was in the 90s on their way to both Super Bowls for the 49ers and for the Green Bay Packers. And they've faced each other, guys, listen to this, 10 times in the postseason. 10 times.
Oh, wow.
The 49ers have faced the Packers in the postseason. So marquee, significant games all throughout our lifetimes for sure. Number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys and the Packers have been part of iconic games since the start of the NFL. I'm thinking the Ice Bowl. I'm thinking about, was Dez Bryant a catch? So many ways along there when Aaron Rodgers made that unbelievable throw to Cook, I believe it was.
Jared Cook. Toe-tapping Cook, baby.
There are just iconic moments for the Cowboys and the Packers. 2 iconic franchises, 9 postseason games against one another. So the Cowboys and the 49ers, many marquee postseason matchups. Number 3, the Minnesota Vikings. I mean,
Number 2,
the Minnesota Vikings. Thank you, Ben. I'm getting wrapped up in my own rankings. There's so much hate elicited for the Minnesota Vikings, right? Kind of like your ugly stepsister in the NFC North, where they're up there to the north. And the one thing that they at least have over Bears fans is they're not all the time delusional. But no doubt about it, from the Randy Moss days, from the Adrian Peterson days, there were times when that rivalry is fierce. Even Brett Favre going back there from being a Packer to the Minnesota Viking. So that rivalry, fresh as can be, second only to the Chicago Bears. And this is not only one of the best rivalries, the best rivalry for the Packers, the best rivalry in the NFL, the best rivalry in all of sports. Packers and Bears. Not much more needs to be said about it. We know how we feel about the delusional Bears fans here. So to recap, from number 1 to number 5, Chicago Bears 1, Minnesota Vikings 2, Dallas Cowboys 3, San Francisco 49ers 4, Detroit Lions 5. The Detroit Lions are only the 5th rival for the Green Bay Packer, which they lead me to believe, are they even a rival if you're the 5th rivalry for the Green Bay Packers?
Brad, your list is the exact same as my list.
Hey!
look at that.
But I'll say this. If it wasn't for the fact that the Detroit Lions are just a divisional rival, not a rivalry, a divisional rival, a divisional opponent, right? Long-term history that we have between the Lions and the Green Bay Packers. You know what team that I think is actually more of a rival to the Packers than the Lions if they were still in the division? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When they were still in the NFC Central at the time, they were definitely a more competitive football team with the Green Bay Packers for the decade before they actually left. Those were battles. Mike Allstott, Tiki Barber, Warren Sapp. Remember the whole incident between Mike
Derek
McCarthy?
Brooks.
Yeah, Derek Brooks between Mike McCarthy and not Tiki Barber, Rondé Barber, but between
one of the
Warren
Barbers.
Sapp and Mike McCarthy. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Remember they got into it because he hit Chad Clifton on a blind side block after interception? That was a rivalry right there with the Buccaneers. So the Lions are only in here because of longevity and recency of the fact that we've just had the plan for the last 20 years. If it wasn't for the fact that the Buccaneers, who we lost to in the playoffs when they had Tom Brady, I think it'd be the Buccaneers.
You could make an argument it still is the Buccaneers, because obviously it was all those years in the 90s and then early 2000s, and then that heartbreaking loss in 2020, I believe that was.
It was.
Where, man, I mean, because the Packers and the Lions only faced each other twice in the postseason, twice ever, and it was in the 90s and the Packers.
All right, so Brad has given the Green Bay.
Not McCarthy. Sherman. Mike Sherman.
Yes, sir.
Brad has given the Packers all-time rivalries. Is that fair to put it?
Yeah.
I need to make sure that I'm not misremembering history here. But 2019 NFC Championship game, Raheem Mostert ran for 5,000 yards against the Green Bay Packers.
Yes, he did.
2020 in Lambeau Field, Tom Brady, Matt LaFleur made a one-score game. That was the Buccaneers. Still losing it. All right. See, I was losing it. But 2021, knocking the Green Bay Packers out of the playoffs, the 49ers. 2023, last year, the 49ers. 3 of the last 4 postseason appearances have been the 49ers. And you can argue that the Lions kept the Packers out of the playoffs in a de facto playoff game in 2022. So there's a lot more history, I understand, with the Cowboys. I would just move the Cowboys a little bit further down and the San Francisco 49ers up, with the Lions trending towards being more of a rival.
I'm okay with switching Dallas and San Francisco at 3 and 4. I still think the history of Dallas is a lot more significant.
Yeah.
The 49ers, it's really only been since the 90s and then recently that it's been a rivalry. It's been decades upon decades for the Packers and the Cowboys. But either way we slice it, the Detroit Lions are 5, and I don't think it's particularly close.
It doesn't even feel like a rivalry. It doesn't. Like when I look at the Detroit
Dan
Lions,
Campbell 4-2 against Matt LaFleur.
Sure, but
Just saying.
I don't really have this fear for the Lions. There's not a lot of juice going to this game. This game feels like it's a big game because of the records, right? Not a big game because it's a rivalry. When I see the Detroit Lions and I see their fans, I don't get upset at the powder blue. I say, oh, that's cute. That's super cute. This team,
right.
They're finally
What
finding
a cute little team, except they're really, really good,
They're
Kyle.
really good. We were up there for Thursday Night Football last year, and we saw the Lions fans, and they were, jaw-jacking, and they were just happy to be there, man. I wasn't like, ooh, I can't stand y'all. It was like, oh, what's up, y'all? Like, welcome to actually being relevant. So, I mean, maybe if it goes a decade where they're actually good.
So the Detroit Lions are Alex Strofe.
Yeah, they're harmless.
Mr. Irrelevant. He said, welcome to being relevant.
Relevant and harmless.
Yeah, non-threatening.
I think if we've learned one thing during my tenure on the show is I am not harmless.
I would say you're pretty harmless. I mean, I don't really, nobody's fearful of you. You are the Lions. Nobody fears you. Nobody's really concerned about you. Yeah. You're the Detroit Lions, but you're good. You're good right now. So you're the Detroit Lions.
A couple suggestions as honorable mentions would be the Seahawks.
Yeah, there were some painful years.
That's what popped into my head, man.
Would you put them above any of the 5 that I did?
Maybe the Lions. Because it was just much
Would
more
that
competitive.
change after this year?
Yeah, because I think we're using a little bit of a futuristic sense with the Lions because it's never been competitive.
What would it take for the Lions to even get into the 4th spot? I mean, it would take
beat the Packers both times this year and go further in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think naturally over the course of the next few years, we're going to beat up on each other. So
I would say
I would probably say playoff success.
I would say 3 years of beating the Packers in the playoffs, something like that, to really stir your emotion.
Yeah, I think if you're right, the next 3 years, because Jordan Love's under contract for 5, and if we're talking about can Jordan Love get over the hump of the Detroit Lions, that's a rivalry. Because now you're playing a team, two times a year for sure, and then you're meeting them in the playoffs maybe 3 times, and now you're playing them 3 times per year. That definitely will hype up and give some more juice to this rivalry and give more of a storyline of can the Packers overcome this.